Welcome to the Unlock 360 podcast, where education leaders share how they're turning vision into action, one system, one school, and one student at a time, because strong systems give every learner a better shot at success. Hello, and welcome back, everyone, to Unlock 360. This is season 4. I am your host, Wendy Davoud, and joining us today, we have Harrison Gillaspy of Piney Woods Elementary School in Splendora ISD. Welcome, Harrison.
Thank you. I'm excited to be on this podcast. I love talking about education and the things that are driving and factoring into our school today. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. And it's wonderful to have you. To get us started, will you share with our viewers what your background was like leading to, your journey to becoming the principal of Piney Woods Elementary School?
Yeah, I'd love to touch on that. So I started my career in education right out of college. I was a walk-on football player at TCU, and when I graduated, it was in January. And I started in Fort Worth ISD for a brief time. I was an elementary physical education teacher in Fort Worth ISD, but I really wanted to get back into the football world and into coaching. And I got a job in the Houston area in New Caney ISD. And while I was in New Caney, I was a teacher and coach there for 3 years. And then I heard some amazing things about Splendora ISD, and I couldn't go away from the temptation of coming on over to Splendora. And so I came over to Splendora as a teacher, and I taught at their junior high campus, and I taught social studies over there. During that year, the district opened up an opportunity to be an after-school activities coordinator, and they had used some COVID funds to start this program, and it was meant to fill learning gaps in students across all grades. And so I applied for that job, and I got that job. So after my year of teaching in Splendora, I had become a member of the teaching and learning department and started that after-school program as a coordinator. And when I did that program, I got to know some of the principals really well and some of the campuses, and at the end of that year, I had the opportunity to become an assistant principal, and I was actually split between 2 elementary campuses. Our district is fast growth, and the needs were high, but the resources hadn't caught up yet. So I spent a few days at one and a few days at the other as the second assistant principal. About halfway through that. Yeah, it was very unique, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, "Oh, I'd never do that," but I kind of interpreted it as a great opportunity to learn from multiple people. And get to know the community as a whole even better. So I did that. And then halfway through the year, it came about that they needed more support at the junior high where I had taught. And so the district kind of realigned my position to where I was still supporting one elementary school, but also supporting a junior high instead of 2 elementary. So I was like, all right, here we go. But I was excited. It was kind of like a little homecoming for me because I had taught there. And so I was really excited to work with that principal. She had been my instructional coach while I was a teacher, and she was now principal. So that was really exciting. And so I did that for a couple months. And then at another elementary school in our district, the principal had retired in December. And this was now February, and they were wanting to make some changes with some leadership there, kind of reset some things. And so they brought in an interim principal who had been a retired superintendent. And then they brought me into the office, and I thought, oh boy, I'm getting in trouble. What's going on? Why are all these people bringing me in? But it was our assistant superintendent at the time and our human resources director. And they said, hey, you're not in trouble, but this campus had a principal retire. We don't want to change things up a little bit, kind of help it get to the end of the year. So we're going to put you there full time. This will be the school you'll be at as assistant principal with this interim principal.
Okay.
I was like, all right, 4 schools in 1 year, y'all. I swear I'm not in trouble, right? And they're like, yeah, you're not in trouble. We just need your support one more time. And so I did. And so that year kind of went on. Me and the interim, his name is Mr. Briggs. He's now our COO of Splendora ISD. We worked together real hard to get this place going. It's really hard when a leader, when your leader leaves for the year. He was ready to retire, and that was great for him, and he did well at this campus. But anytime there's a change in leadership in the middle of the year, it can be a challenge, right? And then in May, I found out after a couple interviews and applying that I had gotten this position. The superintendent, he had called me and just kind of told me I know you're really young. And at first I thought you'd need some more years as assistant principal, but we're going to go ahead and place you as principal here at Piney Woods. So that's how I got here. And that was kind of a long explanation, but it happened really fast. And a lot of people ask me, how did you become a principal so young? I'm like, well, it kind of was just the way things happened,
Yeah. Well, things happen for a reason. Yeah, that sounds like a journey, a roller coaster whirlwind of a introduction to assistant principalship and principalship. But now here you are. And is this your second full year as a principal, or?
Yes, this is my second year as a principal here at Piney Woods.
Okay. Do you remember any of last year?
It was such a blur. But what I do remember is we have some really strong teachers here that were receptive to a lot of the changes that needed to be made, and were very supportive. So that was amazing.
That's awesome. Yes. And I have to tell you, I'm from Fort Worth, and I'm in Fort Worth now, joining you from Fort Worth today in my home. And this is where I was born and raised. Were you from the Fort Worth area? Is that what led you to TCU and then Fort Worth ISD, or?
Great question. So I was born and raised in Amarillo,
Okay.
but I have some cousins, my great uncle and my great grandmother. They all went to TCU. So
Okay.
yeah, so that has always been on my mind, and that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to go there. It was kind of a family thing. So I just wanted to make sure I kept the legacy going.
Okay, got it. And since that's here, then you accepted your first position with Fort Worth ISD because you had already been here in the area. I got it. So we kind of traded places because I too am a former educator, and I, started off here, but started my career in A-Leaf ISD.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So at Youngblood Intermediate School, and I think we have that in common too. Youngblood Intermediate School at the time, and I think it still is, was a fifth and sixth grade school.
Mhm.
And after serving there as a classroom teacher for a little bit, I relocated to Southern California, where I taught at a junior high, seventh and eighth grade. So we have some of that in common as well.
Yeah, it takes a special person to work at a junior high school, right?
Well, that's what they say, but I feel like it takes a special person to, you know, like get down on the carpet with the kiddos in the primary grades.
That's true. That's true. It's just the different personalities, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that I think I've learned is that really they're all the same. They're still all kids. There's just a different way that you interact with them. Obviously the content becomes more challenging and age appropriate, but they're pretty similar. They respond to a lot of similar things.
Yeah, it's all about the quality of the relationship you build with them, and how you design those lessons around their needs. And that's how you get them engaged.
Indeed. So tell us, like, when you think about where your district is this year as a school district, what are the big bucket items? What are the priorities that you have as a school district and also as a school site?
Yeah, a great question. So our school, we have a new superintendent this school year. He officially started in late March, early April, but they've really put a big focus on our student engagement, and they want to see strong instruction in the classroom. They want our teachers to be providing feedback to the students, not just after an assessment, but during the lesson, in their small group time. They want to see evidence of those things happening, because that's really how you measure student learning and progress. You can't just make a plan after the assessment. We need to be catching the students' learning gaps before we get there if we really want to see them growth. So that's really been a major focus. Student attendance is a big pillar. And then just making sure we have accountability for each other and making sure we're all doing our best to do what's best for the kiddos in our school. So those three things is instruction, attendance, and accountability.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So when you look at or think about what that means for Piney Woods Elementary, and your data specifically, where are you as a school site really focused?
Yeah. So we really put a heavy emphasis on our PLC and lesson design times. And so in
Mm.
Splendora ISD, every campus has what we call a lesson design day. And so for us, that's
Okay.
on Wednesdays. And so our teachers come together and they have kind of gone through their lesson plans, or what we call lesson internalization documents, look through what they're going to be teaching, make some notes about it. And then we come together as a grade level and we all talk through, okay, this is what we're doing on this day. These are the resources we need. And then our instructional coaches come in and they kind of poke holes in it and ask questions. Okay, how can we get deeper with this specific TEK or this standard? And how do we know that the students are learning this in this moment? How long do we need to spend on this content? And it's just really strong conversation and opportunities for more than just the teacher to look at their lesson plan. And then we also, during our PLC time, that's when we're looking heavy at our student data. And then, of course, what are we going to do with that data, right? It's one thing to be aware of it, but the next step is, what do you do with it? And so we track our student data. We provide teachers resources to have individual goal trackers with students. So once they do complete any type of assessment, the teachers pull them up in a small group setting. The kids go over what they did well, what they didn't do well in, and then they create goals based on that. So all of those processes are in place. We've really sharpened those up this year with our new leadership and expectations, and really put a heavy focus on making the students aware where they are and having those students set those goals, and having our teachers be very mindful of the trends, not only in each student, but in their specific standards from each unit.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I have two questions about that. The first one is around data, and the second one is around like that lesson design time on Wednesdays. So I'm going to start with the second one, but don't let me forget I had a data question.
Okay.
Okay, so when it comes to like a structure for teachers to collaborate and really work together as a professional learning community, there can be cultures that see that as a negative thing, or it's like a I just have to do this kind of compliance thing. How do you all work through that, or how have you overcome that, if you have, and if not, what are some of the challenges there?
So I think that's a good point. You might have some teachers who feel that way, but to combat that, instead of just having the teachers kind of read through their plans, that can get kind of mundane. Okay, once we've established we know how to use our resources and our curriculum after the first couple weeks of school, okay, which day do we need to focus on out of next week? Which of these days has our highest hitting TEKs? Or which of these days do we know students commonly will struggle with from year to year? And so giving the teachers a little bit of autonomy to say, hey, this is a heavy standard. I didn't like how this went, or I need to reteach something from last week. How can I spiral that in? Because, they're the ones that know their data the best. They're the ones that know their kids the best. And so we're really prone to listening to what they have to say as far as, hey, I need help with this lesson, or can we just talk through some of these sentence stems, or how can I make this work? At first you just want to make sure you have a structure so teachers have the opportunity to be successful. Okay, these are the resources we have. This is how we're going to use them.
Right.
But after a couple of weeks, these are working professionals. They got that figured out, right? So once we kind of get through that initial start of the year and everyone kind of gets aligned with their resources, then we dive in and say, okay, let's take this a little bit deeper. We're going to look at lesson 3 for this week out of this unit. Talk to me about some of the pieces of this unit that may be a struggle for our students, or this is a really high priority TEK that's tested really heavy throughout the year. How are we going to make sure our students understand that? And it's a good opportunity to have the teachers build in some of check for understanding, or structured conversations. Okay, this is a great opportunity for you to use your sentence stem with the partners, or write out the sentence stem, and let's go over that. Because a lot of times once we have our lesson down, we forget to focus on things like tier 1 and tier 2 vocabulary, right? Or tier 2 and tier 3 vocabulary, where they need to know that specific content and vocabulary, but kind of gets glazed over as we're getting into the nuts and bolts of the lesson. And so just giving that opportunity to highlight, okay, this is a really important vocab word, even in math. Let's make sure we're talking about it. So those tier 2 and tier 3 vocabulary words, what I mean by that is tier 2 is pulled from the standard, and tier 3 is content specific. So we could have like we're going to analyze the photosynthesis process, right? A lot of students don't know what both of those words mean because it could be the first or second time they're exposed to that kind of vocabulary. So teachers, rightfully so, right, they're planning and getting into the nuts and bolts of the lesson, and they'll talk about those words, but they need to build in opportunities for students to use those words and talk to their partners
Right.
about it. So when we get to the point in the year where we feel like, okay, we're using our resources the way we need to, now we can have the teacher say, okay, let's dive in further to Wednesday's lesson. And then it gives us a chance to say, okay, how are we supporting the use of this vocabulary term, and how are they understanding it?
Good. Thank you for sharing that. Now, my second question was about data. And guess what? I now have a third question, um, just about the school's journey. So I remember the data one. Don't let me forget the school's journey question. So when it comes to the data that your teachers use during that lesson design time, is it what kinds of data do they look at and use to make decisions?
Yeah, great question. So all of our data gets pulled during our PLC time, which is separate from the design time. We do PLC in
Oh,
the
okay.
morning.
Got
But
it.
so we use Bluebonnet for math. It's a new curriculum that we're
Hmm.
implementing, and it has different interim assessments built into it. And so we'll take a look at those. It may be like an end of module or an end of unit. And that's some of the data that we'll start to pull and look at and see where our kids may have done really well or struggled with. But we're also a MAP district. So we take MAP assessment
Okay.
at beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year. And we use a lot of that to drive our decisions and seeing, it'll break it down for us as far as what kid struggles with what standard. And that helps teachers build their groups for intervention, or small groups during their tier 1 time.
Okay, good. Thank you for sharing that. So about the school's journey, when you think about, now I know you're still relatively new to this school, but what you learned about it before serving as the principal there, and what you've seen just in the time that you have served, where would you say that your school as a whole has really grown or evolved in the past couple of years?
Yeah. So if you take a look at Piney Woods, you notice in the past 5 years or so, it kind of had a little bit of a downward trend with the data. And so we've worked really hard to identify why is this happening, because we have amazing teachers at this campus. Uh, and and we kind of looked at ourselves and like, what supports are we providing as an administration? So I came in, like I said, this is my second year. And in my first year, I had noticed this trend. I'd done a lot of research on the school, and I had seen kind of what had been going on. And so that's why we became more intentional about planning how to use our student data and try to turn that trend around. And if you look, and I know we like multiple units of measurement, we don't like to rely solely on STAR, but
Right.
that's what our community sees, right? And that's important. We have to make sure that we're not, on a state watch list. Otherwise, we're not being accountable to our community, right? And so if
Mm-hmm.
you look at the Piney Woods community, as far as STAR is concerned, it has had a dip, but from last school year from the 2022, 2023 to 2023, 2024, we had made an improvement. And so we're
Okay.
hoping to continue that. I'm sorry,
Good.
so 20 to 24, 25, we had made an improvement. We're hoping to continue that in 25, 26. And so we're just going to keep our focus on growing students. And we do that by looking at data. So at the end of the day, we're not looking at a certain percentage of kids to be at a certain mark, right? We just want every kid to show some type of growth. And that's how we know we're doing our job as educators and doing what's right for these kids at Piney Woods.
You know what? I really love that because I frequently work with school sites or districts who have, set specific goals or growth targets that are about percentages of kids in certain performance
Mm.
bands. And I always have to, look for the right opportunity for, providing some guidance or direction and external thought partnership around that. But I don't, I, and I'm not saying it's wrong,
Right.
but it can't be the only thing, because then we're just looking at clumps of kids, and we need to look at every single kid. So I really love that you all are doing that.
Yeah, that's the one thing that we didn't like about previous ways of looking at it either. We don't want to just focus on those bubble kids, right? Every kid at our
No.
school deserves a chance to grow and learn. And so, and
Right.
if we make that a priority, like, hey, you may have not have passed this year, but you went from here to here. Like you jumped, 10 points or whatever it is. That's worth a celebration, right? So as long as we're taking care of our kids and they're growing, we won't have anything to worry
Yes, indeed. So indeed, that's so important to see that every kid is growing, and
about.
yes, the state does reward that with a growth measure. I am. So where do you think you are now? Do you believe? Do you have data to say? Are you on track to having that growth again this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Our early assessment data is probably anywhere from, if I had to put a number on it, 10 to 20 points higher per grade level compared to this time last year.
Oh, good. Okay.
We try not to be too deceived by data early in the year, just because you haven't hit a lot of the heavy content yet.
Hmm.
But comparing it to this time last year, we are in a much better spot. So we hope to continue to reach that trend, and we're just really excited to see. We put a lot of teachers together that hadn't worked together in the past, but we noticed last year, hey, these two would really work well together as far as like our third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers. And a lot of teachers made some changes, and that could go a long way. Putting people together who have strengths in one areas and weaknesses in the other to kind of balance things out and just help with the overall dynamic of a team. And it may not be that anybody was bad before; they just needed a little bit of a change and a different kind of support system.
Yeah, that's so true. Most educators are in it for the right reasons and are
Mm-hmm.
really good people who care a lot about kids and want to do what's best for kids. And I think most believe and know and understand the impact that collaboration can have on outcomes for kids. So, very good point. I like your positive outlook and take on that. I think that's important. Harrison, how do you build a culture that people feel excited to, come to work and, tell us about the culture and the things that you do to try to enhance that.
Yeah. So interestingly, I was fortunate to take like a leadership course through Rice University last year. Our district sponsored it. And we talked about a lot of these kinds of things, such as culture and motivating people. And what I find is external rewards are important, like teachers of the month, those kinds of things, they matter. But what really matters is when people know that they can trust you and that the leaders value them. And so what I mean by that is if a teacher doesn't feel comfortable to come in here and talk to me about something, then I'm doing something wrong. And so what really goes a long way with that is just recognizing that we're all here to grow kids and to have them be better, but also recognizing the human aspect of being a teacher. It's a challenging
Yeah.
thing to do, right? And
Yeah.
giving teachers that kind of a grace, like, hey, we're putting all these expectations on you. I don't expect it to be perfect. I just need your best effort. And
Hmm.
allowing them to come in and say, this isn't really working out. And for me to be able to ask why, and they give me reasons why, well, then let's go make that change. Let's make it better. And so just being open and transparent with teachers goes a long way in them wanting to be here. But also on the other side of that, the affirmations and the awards are important. And we just started something here at Piney Woods this past month, and it's like a rotating awards amongst the staff, and we do it at the faculty meetings. So we have a student advocate award, a student achievement award, and a school spirit award. And so for the first
Okay.
one, it's like a traveling trophy. So if you get it, you get to keep it for a month. And so for the first
Okay.
one, the administration kind of selected who got it, and we said why. But next month, the ones who want it will pick who got it, and they'll.
Oh, okay.
So those kinds of things, they help a little bit with morale. You want to feel like the work that you've done is being noticed and recognized, right?
Yeah.
And so we do those things. But in my opinion, the biggest thing for culture um, is you just have to treat people like professionals. You have to listen to them. And that doesn't mean you always change everything when they come upset about something, but it means you're giving them that opportunity to talk to you about it, and they at least know that you care.
Yeah, it matters. So when you think about where Piney Woods Elementary was and where you are now, and then looking ahead into the future, where do you see some places that you all can continue to grow and improve in order to get better results for kids?
Yeah, great question. I think we've taken a lot of steps as far as being aligned with what district expectations are and what resources we need to be using and those kinds of areas. Now it's just about being consistent with it. Okay, we know what to do, we know how to do it. Let's do it when we're tired. Let's do it when we're excited. Let's do it when it's a hard time of year. Let's follow through with everything that we know we need to be doing. And that starts from the top down, right? Because, we all get tired, especially this time of year or when you get into the holiday season. But when you look at a pacing guide and a pacing calendar, there's no time to be tired, right? Like
Well,
we still have to give it our best as much as we can. So just our next step is just being consistent. We know what to do. We know how to do it. Now we just have to be consistent with it day in and day out.
that's good. And I think that, you're reminding me of a meeting that I had with a comprehensive high school principal late last week. And, she was like, it feels like Shocktober. That's what I'm calling it now.
Yeah,
Because it is a hard time of year.
it
But yeah,
is.
it is important to stay consistent.
Yep. And we're fortunate that we haven't a week off for fall break. We just got back from it today.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice.
And this is our fourth year on that. It makes a huge difference. I know sometimes it can be unpopular with parents, but a lot of parents have embraced it. And that's when they take a lot of their vacations because all the resorts and stuff are cheaper this time of year than
Oh,
in the summer.
yeah.
But it's really good for our staff to reset and for our kids. They get worn out too.
I'm
So
curious about that policy in like the calendar. How does it impact your calendar overall? Is it less time at Christmas and New Year's, or you start earlier or you end later? Where do you get it from?
So we're actually on a minutes-based system here in Texas. So our school day is a little bit longer. So we officially start instruction at 8:30, but we don't get out till 4:05. So we go a little bit longer with our minutes, but we get a week off in October and a week off in February. And then spring breaks in April, and we still have a week off for Thanksgiving break and 2 weeks at Christmas.
Okay. All right. So you just do a longer school day to
Hmm.
get your time in. Got
Yeah.
it. Do you all do anything with the week? So I was actually a family member of mine. Her kids go to a school that is a charter school here in our area, and they take a week in October. But that's also a week that students who maybe have fallen behind need to make up attendance or that they will come. Do you do anything like that with that week, or is everyone off?
Everyone's typically off. Now, I will say, like, principals and those who are on like a year-round contract, if we choose to take the October break off, we do use our personal time for that. Uh,
Okay.
and so, for the most part, like your administrators are on site, but a lot of people choose to take that time off anyways, just to kind of refresh a little bit. I do
Yeah.
know like the Monday and Tuesday of the October break is a trade day time. So if employees didn't get their professional development time in the summer, they're required to work those 2 days.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of how that can be used. And then the February break, we have 2 weather days for the first 2 days of that. And I want to say that stayed the same. Yeah, it stayed the same this year. So it still allows you an opportunity as an administrator to take some time if you need to.
Okay. Good. Well, it has been a pleasure having you on our show today, Harrison. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invite. I really enjoyed it. And I always, like I said, always love opportunities to talk about education and the great things we're doing here in Splendora ISD.
Yes. And so if someone would like to learn more about Splendora or Piney Woods Elementary, where would they go?
A great spot would be our Facebook page. We post a lot of the awesome things we're doing in our classroom. A lot of the events that we're having are there. But as well, the district website has a plethora of resources and information about our school.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Unlock 360 podcast. Follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube, and visit leadteachlearn360.com to learn more about us, because every school deserves systems that work and leaders who can make them thrive.